Sitting right for this. For this. All right, we are live.
Oh shit.
Let me go share what I need to share. Hold on 1 second. Mm-mm-mm-mm. What are you doing?
Know what you said?
You should have been did that.
I already did it.
No, you did.
Yes, I did. How you
Don't
gonna
look like
tell
it.
me what I did? I don't care what it looks like, woman. You ain't gonna tell me that I
Don't look like you
already
shared
did
it.
something.
All right. So I don't have a whole lot of time. You got an hour already. Um, goes by really relatively quick. And
Yeah, because my wife talks a lot.
well, you do.
I won't have too
And I
much to
still have
say.
to go work out.
Oh, you can't work out. The gym closes at 9.
I'm going with space. It closes at 10. I'm going to Planet Fitness 24 hours.
Huh. You
So
did
I'm
ask me.
determined to get this done.
You did not ask me.
Thank you.
Can you go?
And I'm not going to. How about that?
You have to submit to me.
No, that's not what that means.
You have to
For that,
obey me.
no. Okay. Anyway, this chapter,
Oh boy.
Jermaine didn't like it that much.
Yeah, I mean, I ain't gonna say it was
But I
just
liked
really
it.
bland.
And as you can see, I'll take. Can y'all
Yeah,
see
I
that?
do all that.
I'll take a bunch of notes. Bunch of notes.
So I'm basically gonna be responding to her.
A bunch of notes about becoming mature. And I don't know why you find this to be a boring chapter when it's probably one of the most important ones, to be honest. Because it is really I like how it talks about in here showing up as a grown up to your marriage.
In the marriage, yes.
And that makes a lot of sense. Um, but Jermaine, since you want to act like you didn't find anything intriguing, really,
I just said it was bland. I didn't say it wasn't necessarily.
what made it bland, baby?
I don't know. I just it was just like
Anyway, so this chapter is about how we come into these marriages and relationship with this preconceived notion of how they're supposed to be, how our partner is, because we basically, in some ways, looked over flaws or kind of didn't give the flaws that we noticed in our partners before we got married the attention that we should have. So it's basically about then you get into these relationships, these marriages, and you start realizing, oh, that you don't like this, you don't like that, or it's not your idea about what you thought the marriage would be, how you thought the marriage would be, and that can draw a wedge between the couples.
basically small little things that you overlook in the dating process, whatever, uh, becomes bigger issues in the marriage. Is what you're saying?
Yeah,
Is what they say.
that's what they're saying, but I think it also ties back to that whole personal ambassador thing,
Yes,
because I think a lot of times. So it says in here, each of us constructs a idealized image of the person we marry. The image is planted by our partner's eager efforts to put his best foot forward, but it takes root in the rich soil of our romantic fantasies. And I agree with that, because people are always doing extra and they doing more. They're doing things in abundance or outside of how they would normally operate in a day to day. And then what happens is people take that and they kind of make that the ideal. This is how it's going to always be. This is how they're going to always behave. And when in reality, that's not necessarily true. We don't recognize that a lot of those things we're doing impression on our partners so that they will marry us, to be honest, so that we can continue the relationship. That's one of the big things that I think that happens. People they send their personal ambassadors, they do impression management, they engage in impression management, and then when they're no longer able to, or when they get more relaxed in the marriage or relationship, those things start to the true how they really are starts to show itself. And it don't have to be anything big, but say for example, if your partner starts off by showering you with gifts every day, then that may be something that you come to expect. And then once you all get married, it doesn't happen as much and you may start to feel a certain way. Or if your partner is always around you, like all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time, then once y'all get married, it's like they're like, oh well, I'm about to go hang out. I'm about to go hang out. I'm about to go hang out. That's something different. That's a change that you were not expecting because they were doing that to show you that they were attentive. But that's just not how they are on an everyday, daily basis.
Now that's one of the examples that actually probably happens realistically a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All of that comes with comfortability, or going back to the personal ambassador thing. Like, the more and more you get, in essence, to everything you just said, the more and more you become comfortable with somebody, you start relaxing the certain things that you've done to garner their attention,
Mm-hmm.
to be Mr. or Mrs. King or Queen to that person.
Mm-hmm.
That I've done that before. I've probably, I don't know, I've probably done a lot of, probably don't do a lot of things I did in the beginning. I ain't gonna say a lot. I don't, what about, you think it's a lot? It's a lot. Like what? Give me one.
I don't hold it against you though.
No, okay, fine. Give me one. That's what I'm glad you brought that up, because I really wanted to. I wanted to ask.
I don't know. I can't think of any specifics on the
Uh-huh.
spot. But what I
Yeah.
noticed, what I noticed that in the beginning, like and that's not to say that you're not intentional now, but in the beginning, it's like you were more conscientious of about being intentionally doing stuff. Now you forget and you be like, whatever, I forgot.
Well, okay,
that type
so
of thing.
that
So
goes
that's
back
what,
to the comfortability level
Mhm.
as well, and I think we all fall short of this to an extent. You the putting the best foot forward thing, right? So once you start doing things that you're not accustomed to doing, or that you wouldn't normally do every day anyway, then that's when it's like you're trying to make yourself, I don't want to say make yourself better than what you are,
Mhm.
but you're trying to be like, hey, look at me, I'm Superman or Superwoman. And that's something that you don't do in your everyday life all day, every day. Like
Mhm.
I've said this plenty of times, like any woman I ever dealt with, I don't ever want them to open the door, close the door, touch a door, whatever the case may be. I'll start off a good month and a half, and next thing you know, I just forgot. Now that I've done,
Mhm.
trying to get back to it. But now I will say this. That's also, again, something that I wasn't accustomed to doing anyway, but it's a gesture that I think is very meaningful, and it
Mhm.
should be operated in the realm of a relationship like that, or I would like for it to be operated in the realm of our relationship,
Mhm.
because I mean that. I don't want you to ever have to touch a door or whatever. It's just something that I didn't do. It was something that I tried to impute into me becoming a better man, and a conscientious appreciative man,
Mhm.
because that's all that is, just showing you like respect, and I appreciate you just by holding the door, because that's not, it's the easiest thing in the world,
Mhm.
but it becomes the hardest thing when you know haven't really done it your whole life.
Right. I understand
So
it. Yeah.
but that, and that's what happens between that and becoming comfortable,
Yeah.
is why people go down that realm, or that path.
And I think they become comfortable. They start realizing the busyness of everything, because sometimes, even in your dating stages, especially for us when we started, there was this whole COVID thing going on and everything, right? So like,
And that
you
could
had like
that's
more time on your hands to kind of just do things with each other that you probably normally wouldn't do had you been busy like you are now. So then sometimes I think when people are dependent on when they start dating, or maybe they'll just, there's a time in life where they're more open as far as being able to do things and travel and spend all this time with the person, and then maybe they get a new job or something once they get married, and all of a sudden the busyness kicks in, or maybe they have a kid once they get married, and then the busyness, and people don't expect that, they don't prepare for how that busyness may interrupt what they had before.
should prepare. They don't even think about it to prepare for it.
Right.
Like, and I wonder how many people. That's funny that you said that. Like, we met in the midst of COVID, or shoot, right when COVID started, basically,
Mhm.
right. So when everything's shutting down and everything else, we were afforded a lot of time together.
Mhm.
So I've seen people say this, but I wonder how many people actually, when COVID came and they had to spend time around their significant other,
Mhm.
I wonder how many people actually how many relationships did that fix, and how many did it destroy?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And in our situation, I wonder the people that met during that time, are they still together, and if they're having any difficulties because as you were saying, we spent a lot of time together, and if that's something like people were forced to spend time with one another.
Right.
So if another couple had just met like we met, and then they were forced to spend time together, I wonder if they still going strong, or after things started relaxing and life started becoming back to what we normal, then more problems arise because they're like, no, I'm going to hang out with the boys, and no, I'm going to hang out with the girls.
Exactly.
With us, it didn't really. Actually, probably the reason I probably married you so quick too, because I was like, yeah, I can be around her.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but for the most part, it goes back to what you always said, though. It's being intentional. All of that is being intentional. I've said this before. I've strongly didn't understand what it means. I want to say I almost disagreed with the intentional aspect of it, but as I'm trying to do things, it's for like going back to the car door. It has to be intentional,
right?
Because it's to the busyness in the everyday life, and it's something that I never really said, but I never really actually put my best foot forward to do for it to become a routine ritual of doing. So yeah, that's
It's true. It's definitely very interesting. So the chapter kind of focuses on that, and but I like how the author also makes this point of saying, like, many times we have this ideal version of what we think our partner should be, right? And we totally don't even think about the fact that we are who we are, right? So we don't even consider the fact that there may be some quirks and things about ourselves that may irritate our partner or frustrate our partner too. Yeah. So we don't think about it. We're always looking at, okay, he needs to do this, he needs to do that, he needs to fix this, he needs to fix that, he needs to blah, 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 blah. But we don't sit down and think about ourselves in that manner and say, like, okay, well, these are the things that I'm bringing into this marriage, and these are the things that I maybe need to look at and change, or at least talk to my partner about to see if they're bothersome to them, because maybe there's some things about me that I need to change. And maybe it's not just that they need to change. Maybe in this situation, I'm saying they need to change, but it's really me that need to change my view on that.
Well, so even when I read that, that comes back to the thing that we always talk about, compromising as well. Because what happens with that, when I read that, I thought, well, some people can actually, the reason that we say, okay, well, like he was saying that when that couple came to them and it was like, well, I don't think a couple came to him, but he was talking about how people,
they did come to him.
Yeah, okay. So like they need to change this and they need to change that. Going back to what you said about what we need to change about us, a lot of times I think what happens is we don't think that we need to change anything about us, and maybe you don't think that you need to change anything about you, or maybe it's maybe you just need to compromise more. So maybe, I don't know, like I can't come up with a scenario, but if you're telling me to do yada 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 yada, right? And just because you like it, like what we talk about sometimes, like this, you want that here, this there, that there. There's nothing wrong with what you like, but if I want to put this there, and that there, because that, is how I want to do it or something, and I'm not. This is not personal.
No, I get what you're saying.
So it's nothing wrong with what you like. There's nothing wrong with what I like. So I don't think people necessarily want to compromise, and they just want that other person to do what they want them to do, and that's on both sides.
Yeah. So
I think is that would compromise and actually fix that, or is it something that, because like what, unless we're talking about like certain trauma and baggage, it's like what about someone that would they need to change? I think it's more of understanding that you're trying to become one and not individuals. Yeah, that has to take effect for the change. Stop moving as you're a single person. You've said that to me plenty of times, that you can't move as a single person, but then you're trying to learn how to move as one. So when you're doing that, that's what has to change in you as well as the other person to move as one. So it definitely has to be changes then. So I see, okay, no mind. I just contradicted myself. But so I see what you have to change.
Yeah, and it's like, and then he talks about like God, when things happen, you're supposed to be uncomfortable. So it made me think, and he also talked about like how people kind of do escape from these type of issues. Um, and the crazy thing is, the more I was reading this chapter, I was like, okay. And then the more I see, like even in our marriage, and when I look at things other people do, I'm like, okay, that's why people that do it, and I don't advocate for this, but the people who are now this new age thing that are living in separate place, they're married, but they're like the guy's apartment is upstairs, the woman's apartment is downstairs, so they don't have their separate space because they're just so different with regards to things like that. I see why people have gone that route, but I think that it's escapism too. I think it's a way to not deal with that, what's going on, like up front, and facing the fact that, okay, no, if you're married, you're supposed to come together, and those are the things that's gonna be different. You're gonna have different views on, how the toilet paper should go, but those are the things that you're supposed to work towards. Those are the things that you're supposed to be a grown up about when you marry someone. And I don't think it's considered being a grown up when you're just both like, okay, well, they're gonna have their own spot and I'm gonna have my own spot. We're gonna be married, but we're gonna have our own spots and do things how we want to do in each of our respective places. And we just come together at night or whatever they do, like however they have it set up. So it made me think about that too. Like that's the easy way out, I would think. But I also see how when some people things are so indoctrinated in them. Like for me, I really do not. Nah, did they diagnose me with that? I don't know. I can't remember. But I think they did. I really do have like compulsive disorder with regards to certain things. And so like for certain people, I don't know, maybe they can't ever reach a compromise. And so maybe that is the best way for them to be like and not cause extra stress on their marriage. I don't know. But I just think about those instances where there's certain things that's very, very, very hard to change, or very, very, very hard to get alignment on. And what do you do in those instances? Like so, seriously, because like it drives me crazy. Okay, I'm trying to deal, and I'll be like, oh my God.
Let's get personal here. You very much have compulsive disorder, right? This ain't nothing we ain't discussed. I'm gonna say it ain't bad. Mm-hmm. To the point of like when she washed clothes or things like that, I put my clothes up. It actually bothered her because I just put my stuff in the drawer. I put my stuff in the drawer, and it gets on her nerve, right? So with that being said, what I do, and it's like I'm in a no-win situation when it comes to her, when it comes to this, because she likes her stuff like this, hung up like this and hung up like that, put over here, folded like this, folded like that. And trust me, it's worse than what I'm saying. It's my compromise is I'll just wait until she folded and tell me to put it where she want me to put it or how she want me to put it versus me going to do it anyway. But then the adverse part of that is like she gets frustrated because like, why do I have to tell you to do this, that, and the third? But that's the only way that I can compromise. It doesn't bother me to that point, but that's the only how it can work.
My compromise is I don't look in his drawers, right? I'm like, okay, I'm just not going to look in his drawer because I do, they going to drive me insane. But then he'll tell me to pack his clothes for him. So then I have to go into his drawers and almost scream. I'll be ready to have a nurse breakdown.
Well, but that's the other thing. If I pack my clothes, you're gonna have a nervous breakdown. It don't take me long than 5 minutes to get ready. I just throw shit in the bag. He would just
throw anything. I'd just be like, Jermaine, you can't pack like that. So yeah, but those things.
The whole thing about it is, again, you just have to come up with a way to compromise, because a lot of issues, what I'm learning and what I have learned in our marriage, and I think if people insert this a little bit, they don't have to be like me, because I'm a little bit laxed on a lot of things. But when you think about the overall picture of the marriage, mm-hmm. are those things worth not being with that person for, and arguing with that person and disagreeing with that person and being mad at that person? Again, it comes back to the thing with the egos. Sometimes we have to put our egos aside for the betterment of our relationship and our marriage. Like I would, if I could think that I'm 100% right and she's wrong. If it's nothing that's detrimental, then I would just, okay, I feel like this, and I'll just let her have her way, because like, what am I going to argue for? What are we going to get mad about this for? What is it going to stop us from making money? Is it going to stop us from building our future? Is it going to stop us from business adventures? Just like, it's the, you have to look at the totality of the overall, for me anyway, for the overall marriage and where you want to go. Mm-hmm. And then at that moment in time, is it really worth you getting upset for?
Right.
So
I agree with that.
It's just like a lot of things that you don't have to, I don't want to say address, but you don't have to let it get to a certain level.
You don't. I think there's a way to address things, even some of the simple things, and not allow it to get to a certain level. I think that's key. Not allowing it to get to a certain level, because there are certain things that do need to be addressed. Like when I was reading this and he was talking about how there's things that we need to, I know there's stuff about me that I need to work on, that I need to change. And I kind of think about that a lot recently. Anything. Shut up. But like, just even the other day when I was asking Jermaine, this guy was on Facebook and he was saying these are the top 10 things you have in a relationship that, you know, number one, you align. And then Jermaine was like, well, I was like, you agree with that? And he was like, well, and I'm like, because he thinks that most of the time we are in alignment, because he comes over to my side, which I hate. And then I've asked Jermaine before about like when we're having our touch bases and stuff, he'll act like, oh, there's nothing, I ain't got anything to say negative, blah, 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 blah. And you don't have any flaws. But that's the thing. I know that I do. Like, and I don't think you can, I think that to love your partner is to also tell them these things so that they can grow as a person and change as a person, because sometimes a person does need to change, because number one, maybe the flaw that they have is not very godly, so they do need to change, because you should want your partner to get into heaven. But even that, it may be something that helps them.
You get into heaven if I go to hell.
It may be something that helps them grow as a person and become a better even better person. Like, you can think your partner is all that and then still recognize that, okay, these are the things that you could do, adjustments you can make that will make you even more all that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And so then when Jermaine said we align because he comes to them, I was like, why? Like, why aren't you? And I'm not saying argue with me about stuff, but why aren't you standing firm on some of your positioning? Because maybe I'm the one that need to change my positioning on things. Like, and that's if I had an issue,
because I learned that you ain't gonna do it. So
I do. Yeah, okay. I do sometimes. If I had an issue, that'd probably be like my biggest, like the biggest thing.
Well, here's the thing though, right? When I say everybody has flaws, right? But here's the thing. I don't think that I could tell you for you. I don't think that I could tell you what your flaws are. Because what I may deem as a flaw, somebody else won't, right? Meaning, so only thing you could do, and I mean, that's what you want to do. So I don't know if that's making you better. It's making you better for me. I don't necessarily know, or vice versa, anybody. I don't know if it's making you a better person. It's
but
just
that's
making
not for
you better.
You to determine, though.
Well, no, it's not, because here's the thing.
If you recognize something as a flaw, then you still point that out, whether or not you think somebody else would think it of. So that has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was getting ready to say. If because that's the whole objective, to be better for one another.
Right.
So I understand that. But if you came, let's say you came from another relationship, and what I said is a flaw, that person didn't think was a flaw. So you changed, and then you went on about being in this relationship doing some of the things that person didn't have a problem with or didn't think was a flaw, right? And so when you come to me, I'm like, oh, that's a flaw. I don't like this about you, or you should change this, that, and the third. But in the same, well, we won't be together forever. All I'm trying to say is this: everything what you may consider a flaw for yourself, I may not consider a flaw.
Okay, I get that, but it's about what you're considering flaws. Like, you don't just come out to somebody and say, you got this flaw, but you can tell a person, give your person your opinion about something they've done or a way they've acted about something, and tell them what you think honestly. It doesn't mean that person is necessarily going to agree with you or say, oh, okay, let me go change this. There may be a valid reason as to why they're there, but it could also make that person think more in depth about themselves and say, you know what, you're right. Like, even though so-and-so was okay with this, and he's not okay. Well, maybe there's a happy medium, because you're right. You shouldn't be all the way this way or all the way that way. It could be that it's not like you're telling them to change. It's constructive criticism. That's what they do to you, even at jobs. They give you constructive criticism so that you can be better. A person can't be better if no one has ever given them constructive criticism.
That's true. But I already told you what I told you. Your flaw is that your attitude.
You ain't never said that.
Yes, I have. I told you when you get mad, how you just wild out when you.
Oh yeah, that's something I need to work on.
The crazy look in your face, like you just ready to.
You did tell me that, but I'm pretty sure I have more than flaws.
Yeah, well, the other ones is kind of,
I can't wait. He's perfect. But anyway, so that's what I'm. That was very important. But I saw like there were some questions in here that I thought was.
Jesus Christ, I don't think I ever see you mark up no chapter like that.
Mm-hmm. Because we're saying people have to be willing to engage in dealing with the challenges and changes of marriage, because there will continue to be both throughout the journey of your relationship. And I was like, yeah, engage, not only engage, but engage and embrace them. Challenges promote growth. There's too many people always running away from challenges. Every time there's a challenge, they want to run away. They want to escape it. They want to say, okay, well, I'll just go ahead and agree to get along. That's not how you, that's not growing at all. That's keeping your relationship stagnant. Challenges have always been helpful in helping people to grow to the next level. And if you continue to run away from them and not engage them and not embrace them for what they are, then your relationship is never going to go anywhere. Your marriage is never going to go anywhere, because you're going to always be escaping from them or sugarcoating them until one day somebody's going to get tired of it. And then it's going to be like, well, I'm mad about this and this and that, and have a whole 100 things that they mad about that they've been holding in the whole time because they just been doing what you want to do and shutting up. That's not how you deal with stuff.
No, I agree with that. It's and I understand the running away aspect, because one thing that I have learned, like I've learned a lot in this marriage, is when you be quiet, all of it piles up, and that one little thing that's really not that big, you bring out, like she said, 100 different things that happen through over the months, years, or whatever the time is, and it just becomes like overwhelming to the other person. They're like, well, damn, I didn't even know you felt like this. So, and then at that point, it could be potentially too late to even try to rectify the situation,
right,
and damage the relationship,
right,
to the end point of it. So,
yep.
But the running away from challenges of the relationship, actually, it's like you said, embrace it. I told you this like last week before last. I don't like, disagreeing and arguing, but I do look forward to those certain things, because I will say this, and I wholeheartedly mean it, by the way. I don't think we're where we need to be, but I think, and it's something that we both should be proud of, we've came a hell of a long way as far as certain aspects of our communication, especially when the little things become bigger things. Let me say it that way. So we've learned how to try to get one another point over. Do we still, sometimes get a little bit too upset? Yes, we do. But that has very much been minimized to me. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
I think that's, and that's like to me, that's like a win, right? Because again, going back to the escaping and running, we could have both went in our corners, not said nothing, and let it go, whatever the case may be. Ended the relationship. I mean, we had only one situation that could, but nothing really bad that, we could have just ended the relationship. Like, yeah, we ain't gonna do this. I'm not doing this. So you know what I mean? But that was a challenge that we had to get through,
right?
And that we're still working on and getting through it. And I think we're conquering it.
Right. I think so too, because there's even moments in conversations where, like we used to, if we got a heated discussion, it was just a heated discussion, period.
Yeah.
But now, even if it gets a little heated, we both sometimes, a lot of times, actually most of the time, we'll take a step back and be like, okay, well, let me this is what I'm saying, as opposed to just blowing completely up. So it has gotten better with respect to that.
And that's a win, because like if you, and I'll say for us, I can't speak for everybody. Well, I'll say for me, personally, those type of like normally how I used to operate, that right there, I would be like, yeah, I'm not about to do this. I'm just gonna, I'll check out, right? Just mentally, and then it damage the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to grow and learn and be willing to communicate and try not to be like that and see it works, it's wonderful for me. Because what I always tell you, I have to what? I have to see things before I believe it.
Yeah.
So like that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
Still get on my nerve.
So this author talks about like taking, instead of having this idealized version and now like allowing that to destroy your relationship or your marriage, to actually mourn it, to mourn that that's not how things are in this particular marriage and relationship. It's not how you thought it would be. And then mourn it, get over it, and make something new. Like accept the fact that, okay, this is going to be different and I'm okay with that. And it's going to be a good different, and it's going to be a great different. And this is our opportunity to create something on our own.
Yeah, that morning part was a little bit I didn't feel like trying to read into all that because I was like that was a little bit too intellectual for me.
Oh, but it was because he talks about the grieving process, and a lot of people don't understand that you grieve every different things. You don't just grieve death. Like you grieve loss of job, you grieve kids growing up, you grieve things changing, you grieve the end of a relationship. And he was saying like a lot of times when we come into a marriage and we realize, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. It's not like this house with the white picket fence and 2.5 kids and a dog. Like it's nothing like, yeah, that used to be the ideal. There's nothing. It's nothing like
half a kid.
I don't know. That's what they used to say. It's nothing like this. It's totally different. Some people actually mourn that, and I feel him in a way because I've done that, and I've done it in the sense that I am so. I know it may not seem like it, but I am such a traditionalist. Like at the core of me, I'm a very traditionalist. Traditional. Like I didn't come from broken home. I was raised with my mom and dad. For the most part, I've always seen the like people they're married, they have their kids, and that's it, right? So, and then that's how the whole beginning, almost half of my life is that you're in this marriage, you have your kids within that marriage with your spouse, and you all are just one on everything because that's your first marriage. The kids are both of you kids. It's a totally different experience. And so I mourn the traditional factor. I mourn that we don't have in this marriage. Like this is not our first marriage. We both have kids that were not created within this marriage, and it's a whole different ball game, and not what I really expected. To be honest, it's totally different what I expected. I'm more that I can't say that I feel that I can't say to the kids like I used to. Like if they come to me and ask me for something, oh no, go tell your dad to do that. Oh no, go like that. Like that's different for me, and it's something that I actually mourn.
I mean that's understandable. But so and that's that's a whole nother subject though. Two different walks of life, but yeah. I mean that's definitely understandable.
And it was like everything was like, okay, well, it was, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it was like, okay, yeah, everything is like yeah, this we're in all of this together. Like it's hard to explain, and I'm not saying that we're not like that, but it's a different in all of it together with us. Because we're, I'm saying it's a different experience. And so that's something that I definitely mourned. But even reading this chapter, I was thinking like, yeah, you know what? You should appreciate the fact that, it's not like that. We have the ability to create something that our own type of marriage, you know what I'm saying? And define our own marriage and how it should be for us.
Well, for me, it's being my second marriage. it's for me, it's my first marriage, just because I did everything so uh, ass backwards in the last one. Uh, so for me, it is more of a first marriage for me. I yes, I was married before, but like I don't. How do you, if you don't give your all?
Hmm.
It's sort of like well, if you don't give your all in something, yes, it happened. You can't take away the fact that it happened,
Right.
but it's not, to me. It's not the same thing.
Hmm.
Like I could, the individual I was married to, I think highly of her or whatever, but yet and still, it's like she gave. It wasn't reciprocated. I didn't give her what
Right.
she
Right.
was
Right.
giving me. So with me, I can say that to me, this is like my first marriage because I'm trying to reciprocate what you giving me,
Hmm.
right? I can never always tell you, I never question your love for me, but I'm trying to reciprocate how much you show me you love me, and I want to show you the same thing. So for me, that's a first.
Hmm.
All of that, everything I told you, everything that we do for has been a first for me.
Hmm.
So I can't say that I'm a traditionalist or nothing like that because I come from a totally different background.
Right.
So,
Right.
but I don't. I just and that's again what you saying. You mourn. Just basically the whole ideology of how you were married before because of the traditional
Right. Way in which I
standpoint
create.
of it.
Yeah.
That's understandable. And that's probably why I was like, this chapter's kind of bland.
Hmm.
While I understood certain things that he said, a lot of times with me, I'm trying to work on that too. If it doesn't hit home, it's like, yeah, it doesn't really click like that. So
Hmm.
that's the reason that clicked with you more than
Hmm.
me, because it's like I didn't live like that.
Right.
I could say, if which, God forbid anything happened, then I could actually would be able to understand that more.
Right.
Then you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because so yeah,
I get that. Yeah. So that was very interesting. So it was a couple of questions. I think I asked you the question you didn't answer them.
yeah, I woke up and started.
He did ask what do you think about the statement that the first marriage vow should be to show up as a grown up? What does that mean for you?
And I answered that some kind of slightly in my head when I read it.
Hmm.
What it means for me, number one, when you show up as a grown up in the marriage, coming where I came from and being married this time, you have to show up as a grown up in the relationship before you can show up as a grown up in the marriage.
Hmm.
Meaning, you have to understand what marriage really is and understand what love. And I know sometimes I become uh, repetitive with this. What love demands,
Hmm.
and that's when you show up in the love category as a grown up. Then
Hmm.
you're going to show up in the relationship as a grown up.
Hmm.
Then showing up in a marriage as a grown up
Hmm.
is like a no brainer at that point. So
Hmm.
I think you have to show up, and that's what I'm glad you brought that up. I think you have to show up in the relationship. You have to show up in love, and then in the relationship, and then showing up as a grown up in the marriage is just you already been there. So you
Hmm.
have to be a grown up going
From the
into the
beginning. Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah. And that's what
So
most people are not.
and that's how you get into those other little situations too. Because I'm one of them. I'm not gonna say a lie to you. I said it last week, probably the week before last. I thought, as long as I don't cheat, I don't hang out in the streets and be chasing other women, DMing and texting people. Oh, great. We ain't have no bad marriage. Yeah, I mean that's very important.
Hmm.
But I didn't know that everything marriage entailed.
Hmm.
Uh, so I could show up. It was like I showed up a third part of a grown up, just to it go. That's a whole nother subject, but that's the bare minimum. That's not, when I say bare minimum. People think that because you don't cheat, you don't this, that, and the third, that's on the pedestal. That's, you don't supposed to do that. So that's bare minimum.
Right.
But understanding what marriage entails, and actually knowing what marriage would be entailed, would be me showing up as a grown up from the beginning. I
Hmm.
just didn't know.
Right. Right. That
So
makes sense. And I put something similar, but I'm like being ready to accept that there is a learning curve. Um, and that you're like neither one of us are flawless.
I'm flawless. I'm perfect.
And that as an adult you deal it with things in a mature way. You deal with issues, and the common goal, even when you have these challenges, the goal should be remediation. But it's almost like I heard somebody talk about it before, but the goal should be like, okay, yeah, we have this challenge, but our goal is to overcome it. Our goal is to figure out a way to together to overcome that challenge and to deal with that challenge and to handle that challenge, because we're in this together. And that to me is what being a grown up entails too.
So I've said this before. I've seen it one time, and it seems like it's circulating through the internet now. But I said this to you one time. We had gotten into an argument or something. We have to figure out a way to understand that we're not the problem or the issue. The issue is whatever the problem we're having. So that's what we need to attack, and not
we need
one
to fight
another.
That together.
Yeah,
fight
versus
the problem together.
Fight one another.
Right.
And when I seen that resonated with me, and I was like, that's true, because too many. I mean, we got into an argument one time, and how we were going back and forth. It was like, yo, we're not that. Like, you're not a chick on the street. I shouldn't talk to you like that.
Right.
I'm not a chick on the I mean, a dude. I hope I ain't a chick at all. A dude, or that you met out somewhere.
Right.
Like, you're my wife. I'm your husband. So at from the gate, we supposed to have that respect for one another. So we're there, but I'm saying when people get that and understand that part of it, then it's like, okay, we're mad. I get that, but we're mad at because this issue right here exists.
Right.
How are we gonna remove this issue?
Right.
You know what I mean? And too many people just direct their anger at one another.
That's true. That's very true. And it said, what things do you need to work on in your marriage? And a few things I said I need to work on is that realizing or being comfortable with the fact that everything can't always be my way. I need to be more flexible and not as rigid when it's come to certain things. Yeah, I know there's stuff that is harder to maybe to be like that with, like I said, with the compulsive disorder thing, but I still need to find a way to be more flexible. And in some ways I did that when I said, like, okay, well, I'm gonna just let him do his drawers however he wants to do his drawers. It just drives me crazy when I got going them. But I just think that I need to be more flexible in things and understand that everything doesn't have to be the way that I ideally think they should be.
And things that I think that I have to personally work on, sometimes those questions, actually, that's a good question because it forces. Yeah, thank you. It forces us. That question actually forces you to look at yourself, right? Because I want to sit here and say, like, technically nothing. Like, I do everything. I'm with you all day. I try to do everything that, but at the end of the day, one of the things that I want to really work on is being more intentional. Like, and that's the word that could death do us part will always be stuck in my head, that you told me, being more intentional about things, especially now that I understand it more. Just like I mean, I know you see me opening the car door and stuff. Sometimes you still get out quick, and sometimes I still forget, but I'm doing it more than I was. So it's like, when I was the last I woke up and kissed you. I done got to the point now, I get up, you get up before me, what I say? Oh, so you ain't gonna kiss me? Right. So that I've made because I started off, we said that we'll never go to bed without kissing each other and mad at each other. We're always gonna wake up kissing each other. And we got away from that. Right. And I was like, one day I woke up and I don't know what happened. It was like, damn, we don't do that no more. And since that day, I've really, really, really been intentional. And you've helped. Matter of fact, I think you said it to me twice. Oh, so you just ain't gonna give me a kiss, and you haven't had to say it anymore. Because I made that a thing. I get up in the morning, 5 o'clock, I'll kiss you, whether you sleep or not. So it's like that's what I want to be intentionally intentional. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, that's what I think. Really that's what it makes things a little bit easier too.
And then he says, discuss how communication and flexibility can help you down the road to deal with unmet expectations as a couple. And I just can't stress any more than communicate. Because like this first proverb says, there can be no peace without understanding. And the only way you get to understanding people is by communicating with each other. That's really the only way you get to understand.
You know why I underline that? I just thought about that. You say that's you said Proverbs?
A proverb.
So remember when I was isn't that funny? When I was in Iowa and I said that to that guy, and you know, I can't quote 3 Bible verses.
Right.
I've never heard that, didn't know it was a Bible verse. But when I told that guy, I said, without communication, there's no understanding. Right? And he's like, oh, I like that. I was like, yeah, it's a saying I came up with. Nah, I didn't even know that was in the Bible.
Right.
So I think that's and it's definitely true though, in all aspects of any part of life, business, jobs or whatever. Because if you don't communicate, you can't understand what somebody's point of view is, another point of view, or you know, whatever it took for wherever you at with the problem or whatever it is to get there. Communication gets you the understanding of what they're thinking.
That's true.
So
yep. You should understand, because you can understand something and not agree with it. Like we have a tendency to think that understanding means agreement. No, you can disagree with it and still understand. I understand your viewpoint. I just don't agree with it. And so I think the communication, that's all I can say. Communication is how you deal with unmet expectations, because it doesn't make anything better if you're sitting up there being passive aggressive because there was some expectation that your partner didn't meet, and they don't even know that they didn't meet it, and they don't even know what that expectation is. Or maybe even if they do, they don't know that it's bothering you that much that they didn't meet that expectation. So how is that even fair? It's not.
100%.
So communicate.
I totally agree. And so I'm gonna communicate this to you.
He hungry.
Nah, yeah, that too. But I really didn't want to do this.
What?
I wanted to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
And I really didn't like this chapter like that. But you narrated so well, you get me to talking. Because I said she's probably gonna be mad at me because I ain't really got too much to say. But then when you start talking, this ain't got nothing to do with the chapter. This is a whole sidebar. This is why I love this woman, because even in times of me feeling like I can't do something or don't want to do something, I want to say can't, don't want to do something, I'm not feeling like I do it, some kind of way she makes me do it. And when I say makes, I'm talking about her energy. Her energy says to me, like, yeah, you're not gonna sit there and not do it, or you can do it. It's just your energy that you throw off. And that's why I came back when I left from downstairs. I walked out. I was feeling something. I just felt like a little bit off. I just came back and kissed you because I was like, yep, well, my wife would do it. You know what I mean? Like, so I thank you for that. I can't thank you enough. And I told you this. I tell her this off camera, so I don't really think about it. Telling you on camera too. I just want you to know it happened again today. So that. Well, when I got back from the from the thing with the my contacts and stuff, it's just like even this morning when I don't know why that messed my day up, right? That little thing messed my day up. Just you saying nothing to me. When I say nothing, just talking to me, it's like, yeah, she didn't overcame yada yada. Or I just thought you make me think positive without saying nothing. So I appreciate you. High five.
Right.
Psych.
You know what? We're gonna fight.
Yep. So we just make it. Yeah. No, not my work.
That's what we're gonna communicate. Yep. We got a way to communicate.
Yeah, we got a way to communicate, and it's better than words.
I don't think that gets people anywhere but babies. Then they really don't communicate because they got a crying baby all the time.
Better get ready.
But that was it. That was it. The next chapter, it actually goes into a whole different section. It starts to deal with what is it? Let me go. It's about.
She probably finished the book.
No, I didn't. I really didn't. But it's a whole. It's about this whole what I was talking about actually, about becoming flexible, becoming more mature in our marriage and our relationship, becoming self-aware. So it's going to definitely be interesting. It's the becoming quality characteristics that help couples become married. So that's what we're looking forward to, becoming married.
Well, we ended 10 minutes early.
Oh,
I mean, if we are, that's great for me. I gotta take a shower anyway.
I'm hungry.
Well,
you're not gonna take me get nothing.
Hell no. I mean, no. I
Who's gonna eat?
I don't know. I'll get something while I'm out.
Today was pizza night for the kids. No, we're not doing that. You gonna give me something to eat,
dude? I'm not. I can't now. Come on now.
Said, dude.
We about to have an argument on live. Last night, my stomach. I tried to go out. It didn't work. My stomach. I had to come back home. I gotta go night.
Okay, you gonna drop me off?
Drop you off where?
Work out.
How you gonna get home?
Uber.
Why would you waste money?
Well, that's how I'm gonna get home. Uber.
No, I'm not dropping you.
Why not? Well, I'm at the Uber there and then Uber back.
That's burning gas.
I can't see.
Me neither. Obviously, niggas just told me my eyesight got worse.
Oh Lord. Anyway, have a great evening, everyone. Join us again next week, Wednesday at 8:30.
So I don't know why she keeps saying 8:30. Sometimes she say 8. Sometimes
It'll be 8:30 because most of the time we have to pick up our son from work, and it just works better. 8:30 works better.
I've
So
been
we'll do
trying to tell
8:30.
you that. She don't want to listen to me, so if she had compromised, we'd have been at 8:30 all the time.
Whatever. All right.
So, all right. Peace, love, and Afro Grease. And so
Really, baby.